All right, strap in everyone. Today we are going deep, like really meta. Get ready to explore how ancient spiritual teaching can be applied to the world of IT.
That's right, merging ancient wisdom with the constantly changing world of tech.
We've got some fascinating source material to work with for this deep dive. It actually pairs specific spiritual teachings with, get this, analogies from the IT world.
It might sound strange at first, but when you think about it, both spirituality and IT are about seeking clarity, focus, and reaching a desired outcome, right?
Yeah, okay, I see that. Whether it's achieving a higher state of being or, successfully launching a new app, it is about navigating a path towards a goal. So where do we even begin?
Well, the first teaching that really stood out to me was all about letting go of the past to make space for new learning.
Okay, that's interesting.
And you know how in IT we're always having to adapt to new languages, new frameworks, new everything. And sometimes our past experiences can actually get in the way.
Oh yeah, totally. I've definitely been there. Like I spent years coding in this one language, and when I had to switch to something new, I kept hitting a wall trying to use the same old logic. It was so frustrating.
It's like trying to jam a square peg in a round hole. This is where cognitive biases really trip us up. We get so locked into certain ways of thinking that we can miss out on new possibilities.
So how do we break free from those old patterns? I mean, we can't just magically erase our past experiences.
That's where this spiritual teaching comes in. It's not about literally forgetting everything. It's more about approaching new stuff with a beginner's mind. Be open to new ways of seeing things.
I like that, a beginner's mind.
For example, imagine a programmer who has only ever worked with relational databases. Then they come across NoSQL databases for the first time, and suddenly everything they thought they knew is out the window. But if they approach it with curiosity, that beginner's mind, they're way more likely to actually get it.
So it's like you almost have to unlearn old habits before you can really master the new ones.
Exactly, and that's so valuable in any field, but especially in the constantly evolving world of IT.
Makes sense. Okay, what's the next teaching? This one's about avoiding unnecessary arguments and focusing on that's constructive. I can definitely see how this would apply to those, shall we say, spirited sprint retrospectives.
Oh, tell me about it. We've all been in those meetings where it's just finger pointing and blame. But honestly, does that negativity ever lead to anything good?
No, not really. I mean, it's good to understand what went wrong, but the point should be, how can we improve, not dwelling on the past?
Exactly. This teaching is about making a small but powerful shift in our thinking. Instead of asking whose fault was it, we can ask what can we learn from this? For example, say a team is constantly missing deadlines. Instead of arguing about who messed up, they could try to identify those bottlenecks in their workflow and then actually do something to fix them.
So shifting the focus from blame to actionable improvements.
That's it. And that creates a much more positive and collaborative vibe where everyone feels like they can actually contribute.
I like it. Focusing on the how, not the who. All right, this next one is a little abstract. It says, remember the one Father or higher truth and let distractions or Maya fade away. How does that apply to it?
Okay, think of it this way. Every project has a core objective, a North Star we're aiming for. But it's so easy to get distracted. Feature creep, trying to make things perfect, or just getting lost in the weeds. This teaching reminds us to stay focused on that main goal, that one Father, and to let go of everything that pulls us away from it.
So it's about keeping your eye on the prize even when things get complicated.
Exactly. It's like debugging a tricky piece of code. You can get lost in all the different functions and lines of code, but if you keep in mind the problem you are trying to solve, you are much more likely to find the solution.
Right, it's not about ignoring the details, but about keeping them in perspective.
Exactly. And that's a good lesson for anyone, not just in IT. We all have distractions, right? It's about remembering what you are truly aiming for.
I totally agree. Okay, this next teaching is one that anyone who's ever tried to learn something new will relate to. Consistent remarvelance strengthens you. It sounds like building muscle memory, but for your brain.
That's a great way to put it. In the IT world, this could be anything from coding practice to learning a new framework, or even just consistently participating in team meetings. You just won't see the same results from sporadic effort as you do from consistent dedication.
Consistency is something I definitely struggle with, especially when learning something new. It's so easy to procrastinate or get distracted. How does this teaching suggest we overcome that?
It's a great question. This teaching actually offers a few insights. First, it emphasizes establishing a regular practice. Set aside time each day for coding, join a weekly study group, whatever works for you. Having a routine helps you build momentum and makes it easier to stay on track.
That makes sense, but what about when you just aren't feeling motivated? How do you push through those moments?
Well, that's where the idea of remembrance is key. It's not about just going through the motions. It's about being mindful and intentional about your practice. Remember why you are doing this and what you want to achieve. Visualize yourself succeeding. tap into that inner drive.
So it's about connecting with the purpose behind what you're doing.
Exactly. And that deeper connection can make all the difference in staying motivated.
Okay, I'm starting to really see how these teachings can be applied to the IT world. Okay, these next two seem really relevant to the always-on nature of tech. Wake early to study and focus, and avoid visions or distractions that waste time and energy.
These are all about maximizing productivity. Early mornings, before the day really gets going, can be so productive. Start your day reviewing tasks, tackling a difficult problem, maybe getting ahead on documentation. It really sets you up for success.
But isn't the programmer stereotype all about working late into the night, fueled by caffeine? Are you saying we all need to become morning people?
No, not at all. It's more about figuring out when you are most alert and focused, and then protecting that time from distractions. For some people, that might be early morning. For others, that might be late at night. It's about being intentional with your time and energy.
So recognizing your peak productivity times and creating an environment to support that.
Exactly. And that second teaching about avoiding distractions, that is so important in our hyper-connected world. We are bombarded with notifications and messages all the time. It's no wonder it's hard to stay focused.
You're telling me I'm constantly fighting the urge to check my phone or browse when I should be working. Any tips for beating those digital distractions?
It might sound a little counterintuitive, but this teaching encourages us to cultivate inner stillness. It's not about shutting out the world completely. It's about quieting those mental distractions so you can focus.
It's like a meditation for your work life.
Yes, and there are different techniques you can try. Mindfulness meditation is great for becoming more aware of your thoughts and impulses so you can choose how to respond to distractions. Or even just taking regular breaks from technology helps to reset and recharge.
Stepping away from the computer can really make a difference. Okay, I am really seeing how valuable these spiritual teachings can be. It's like a whole new toolkit for dealing with the challenges we face in tech.
And the best part is these aren't rigid rules or dogmas. They're more like mental models or frameworks for thinking about problems, making decisions, and working with others.
It's like they give us a new way of seeing our work and how we interact with colleagues.
Exactly. And that shift in perspective can be really powerful.
Now, this next one seems a bit counterintuitive, especially in the collaborative world of IT. Become introverted to connect with deep inner resources of happiness and strength. I mean, we are always told to network to be more extroverted, so how does this fit in?
That's where things get interesting. We often think of introversion as shyness, right? But here it's more about that ability to focus deeply and use your inner resources, especially with complex tasks. Sometimes the most productive thing you can do is step away from the noise and really dive deep.
Like when you're debugging a really complicated piece of code, you're not shutting everyone out, but you are intensely focused inward.
Yes, and that kind of focused individual work can be so valuable, especially for those tasks that require deep thinking and creative problem solving. It's not about being antisocial. It's about knowing when you need that solo time to do your best work.
Okay, it's about finding the balance between collaboration and individual focus.
Exactly. And I think this is particularly important today with open offices and always-on work culture. It's easy to feel pressure to constantly interact, but you need to give yourself permission to disconnect sometimes and recharge.
Sometimes the most productive thing you can do is just walk away from the computer and clear your head.
Absolutely. And that brings us to 3 related teachings. Always maintain your spiritual pride to avoid feelings of insult. Focus on providing happiness and solutions to others, and be a lighthouse guiding others to the right path with love and simplicity. These all tie into building a positive and supportive team.
A lot to unpack there. Let's start with maintain your spiritual pride to avoid feelings of insult. How does that translate to the world of IT where feedback can sometimes be pretty brutal?
Imagine you get some harsh feedback on your code. It's easy to take it personally, right? But this teaching is about seeing feedback as an opportunity for growth, not a personal attack.
So it's about knowing you're capable of learning and growing even when you make mistakes. But how do you separate the feedback from the person giving it, especially if it's not delivered in a very constructive way?
That's a good point, and it's not always easy. But this teaching encourages us to focus on the message, not the messenger. Ask yourself, what can I learn from this? How can I use this feedback to get better? Even if it's harsh, there's usually something valuable in there.
So filtering out the noise and focusing on the signal even when it's faint.
Yes, and that connects with the next teaching, which is all about focusing on providing happiness and solutions to others. In a team, this could mean sharing knowledge, helping a teammate who's stuck, or simply offering encouragement.
It's about being a supportive teammate, not a competitive one.
Exactly. And that leads us to the lighthouse analogy. A lighthouse doesn't just stand there and criticize ships that are off course. It offers a beacon of light and guidance to help them find their way.
I love that. But how does that translate to a tech team?
Well, think of a senior developer mentoring junior colleagues. They share their experience to help them grow. or a team lead who creates a safe space where everyone feels comfortable asking questions and sharing ideas without being judged.
That's a beautiful analogy, and it really captures what leadership in tech should be about. It's not just about technical skills, it's about guiding and supporting others too.
Right, and that guidance doesn't have to be complicated. It can be as simple as a helpful suggestion, sharing a useful resource, or just listening.
Okay, let's move on to these last two teachings. They seem particularly relevant to learning and collaboration in IT teams. The first one says, the essence of study lies in consistent effort and avoiding shortcuts. And the second is, avoid needless debates, focus on the essence of the truth.
Absolutely. That first teaching reminds us that true mastery in any field, especially IT, takes dedication. There are no shortcuts to really understanding complex stuff. It's about embracing the process of learning, even when it's hard.
So no more copying and pasting code from Stack Overflow without understanding how it works.
Exactly. Deep understanding comes from experimenting, trying things out, and yes, even struggling sometimes. It's about being curious and wanting to really understand how things work at a fundamental level.
And what about that second teaching about avoiding those pointless debates? How does that apply to the world of IT where everyone has a strong opinion?
Think about those technical discussions that turn into arguments about tiny details or personal preferences. Is arguing about which framework is better really the best use of everyone's time?
Probably not, especially when we're trying to meet deadlines. It's more important to find solutions that work, even if it means compromising a little.
Exactly. And it ties back to that idea of focusing on the one father or the core objective of the project. When we remember that bigger goal, we're less likely to get bogged down in those trivial debates.
I'm noticing a theme here. It seems like all of these teachings, even though they come from ancient wisdom, have some really relevant insights for the modern IT world.
It's pretty fascinating, isn't it? These principles aren't about dogma or rules. They're more like mental tools for thinking about challenges, making decisions, and interacting with each other.
It's like they're giving us a new lens to look through at work and with our colleagues.
I like that, a new lens. And that change in perspective can be incredibly valuable.
We're back, and man, I'm still processing that whole introversion as strength thing. It's really got me thinking about how I approach work.
It's a really powerful idea, and it actually connects to the next teaching we're going to unpack. This one's all about, the power of consistent effort to create real transformation.
Okay, that's something I think everyone can relate to, especially in IT, where there's always a new skill to learn, always something new to figure out.
Exactly, and our source material puts it this way: consistent remembrance strengthens you. It sounds simple enough, but there's a deeper layer here. It's about more than just showing up.
Yeah, it's about bringing your full attention to the task, right? Being intentional.
Exactly. It's about cultivating mindfulness, being present in every moment, whether you're coding, in a meeting, or even just talking to a colleague, bringing that same focus to everything you do.
So, training our minds to be more present, more engaged. But how does that actually translate to real results at work?
Well, when you're truly present, you're more likely to catch those little details, to make connections you might otherwise miss, and that can lead to some really creative solutions.
Oh yeah, you're also more open to feedback, more likely to actually learn from your mistakes.
Right. It's like a positive feedback loop. That increased focus leads to better results, which then motivates you to keep going.
I like that. But how do we actually do this in the IT world? I mean, there are distractions everywhere, and this pressure to always be learning the latest thing. How do we cultivate that consistent remembrance?
It starts with recognizing that your attention is valuable. You need to protect it, cultivate it, just like any other important resource.
So being mindful of how we use our time and energy, making deliberate choices about what we let into our mental space.
Exactly. And there are practical things you can do. Set clear boundaries around work time. Limit those distractions like email and social media. Create a dedicated workspace that's free from clutter.
Create an environment that supports focus. I get that. But what about when you're already feeling spattered? How do you get back to that mindful awareness?
That's where mindfulness meditation can really help. Even a few minutes a day can make a huge difference in your ability to focus, manage stress, and find that inner peace.
I'm seeing how all of these teachings are connected now. They all point to a more mindful, intentional way of being.
That's it. And the great thing is, these teachings don't require you to change who you are or believe anything specific. They're just offering a new perspective.
A new way of looking at the world. And that can be incredibly powerful.
Absolutely. And as we've been discussing, these spiritual teachings are just as relevant today as they were centuries ago. They offer this timeless wisdom that can guide us, help us cultivate focus, resilience, compassion, and inner peace.
This has been an amazing conversation, really eye-opening. I'm so grateful for your insights.
My pleasure. And I hope our listeners are inspired to explore these ideas further, see how they can apply them to their own lives.
I hope so too. So, to wrap things up, I want to leave you with this. The journey of self-discovery, it never really ends. There's always something new to learn, something new to explore, and something new to integrate into our understanding of ourselves and the world around us.
So true. And as we continue on that journey, let's remember to be curious, be open, and embrace the unknown.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Thanks for joining us on this incredible journey of ancient wisdom and modern tech. Until next time, keep diving deep. Wow, that last teaching about finding strength through introversion has really stuck with me.
It's powerful stuff, right? And it actually leads perfectly into our final teaching for today, which is all about the impact of consistent effort, how it can be truly transformative.
Okay, I think everyone struggles with consistency sometimes, especially in the IT world where there's always something new to learn, always another challenge to overcome.
That's so true. The sort of material says consistent remembrance strengthens you. It sounds simple at first, but like all of these teachings, there's a deeper meaning here. It's about more than just putting in the hours, you know?
Yeah, it's about the quality of our attention, the intention we bring to our work.
Exactly. It's about cultivating that mindfulness, being present in every moment, no matter what you're doing, writing code, sitting in a meeting, or even just having a conversation with a colleague, bringing that same level of focus and intention to every task.
So it's like training our minds to be more engaged, more aware in each moment. But how does that actually translate to better results in our work?
Well, think about it. When you're truly present, you're more likely to pick up on those subtle details, to make connections that you might otherwise miss, and that can lead to some really innovative solutions.
Right, and you're also more open to feedback, and you can actually learn from your mistakes instead of just brushing them aside.
Exactly. It creates a positive cycle. Your focus leads to better results, which then motivates you to keep going, to keep improving.
Okay, I love that. But how do we actually do this, in the real world of IT with all the distractions and the pressure to stay ahead of the curve? How do we stay focused?
I think it starts with realizing that our attention is precious. We need to protect it, nurture it, just like anything else we value.
So being more mindful of how we spend our time and energy, really making deliberate choices about what we allow to take up space in our minds.
Exactly. And there are so many practical ways to support that. You can set clear boundaries around your work time, try to limit distractions like email and social media, and create a workspace that's calm and organized.
It's about designing an environment that supports that deep focus. I get that. But what about when you're feeling overwhelmed or scattered? How do you get back to that mindful state?
Well, that's where practices like mindfulness meditation can be really helpful. Even just a few minutes each day can make a huge difference in your ability to concentrate, manage stress, and tap into that inner peace.
It seems like all of these teachings are pointing us toward a more mindful, more intentional way of living.
That's a great way to put it. And what's so cool is that these teachings don't ask you to change who you are or believe in anything specific. They're just offering a new perspective.
A new way of looking at the world and our place in it.
Right. And that shift in perspective can be incredibly powerful, both in our work and our personal lives.
Well, I've got to say, this has been one of the most fascinating, thought-provoking deep dives we've ever done. So grateful for your insights.
It's been my pleasure, and I hope our listeners have found something valuable here, something they can use in their own lives.
Me too. As we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with this thought. The journey of self-discovery, it never really ends. There's always more to learn, more to explore, and more to integrate into our understanding of ourselves and the world. So keep searching, keep growing, and keep diving deep.